This is your window on the world, and again we are in London today, finishing our travel article about the mysteries and spies, so stay tuned. Thanks for joining us in our advanced program today, and we're so happy that we do have someone that is actually British in the classroom. Mm-hmm. It makes the program more lively and more realistic, don't you think so?
I think so. I'm glad Gordon can be with us here today, Doris.
And Gordon, before you run off to England to get married, we're going to have you on more programs. How about that?
Yeah, that's great. I love coming on these programs and helping everyone improve their English and speaking to the listeners out there. And I hope you're enjoying this article about my hometown.
And when you get over there to England again, you have to send us some little clips to put in the program so we can keep in touch. How about that?
Yeah, that sounds great. I'll send you pictures.
At least a postcard.
Yeah, I like a picture of his many-tiered wedding cake.
Yeah.
Well, we had some interesting things about England and especially about London. Actually, England is a very interesting country, and it's had a big part in history all over the world. But today we're concentrating on things that people might not know. And we had a good time talking about that yesterday, didn't we?
Yeah, indeed. We talked about some of the lesser-known museums in London, like the Sherlock Holmes Museum on Baker Street.
And Fleet Street.
And then we talked about Fleet Street, the old street where all the newspapers used to be. And yeah, it's lovely for me because I did live there in 2010 and 2011, and it's lovely to remind myself of these streets and places I used to walk.
Well, it's nice to have people that have been there talk about it, and Lois and I both love London, too. And Lois, did you learn anything new about it that you didn't know? Did you learn anything new yesterday?
I certainly didn't know all this about Fleet Street. This is, kind of new to me for sure, and I was just there 3 years ago. Of course, I saw some of the things they mentioned, maybe not always inside, but outside. Mm-hmm. I probably went to a lot more of the larger museums.
Yes.
But I went to one that was quite new to a lot of people because I went to I think it's Cutty Sark, am I right?
The Cutty Sark, yeah.
Yes, the Cutty Sark. And it is incredible because you're kind of in a boat, but it's dry docked and it's very well done. And Gordon would be able to tell us what area that's a greater London area, right?
Yeah, the Cutty Sark is a very old ship that they've turned into a museum and they've put it on the land, and it's down in Greenwich, which is actually my favourite part of London.
Yeah, Greenwich is pretty
Greenwich
interesting.
is beautiful. It's a very old part, and there's a lot of naval history there, and there's museums, and there's this big, beautiful green park, and you can climb up to the hill on the top of the park and look out over the whole of London.
That's right. Wasn't that a ship, the Cutty Sark?
Yeah, the Cutty Sark was a ship, but it's now a museum. So.
Right.
And it's well worth seeing, and a lot of people don't make the trip out there, but it is worth the trip. Plus, I can tell you, while we were out there, we found a place that served the best sticky toffee pudding I had in the whole United Kingdom.
Well, but you didn't go to the place. I went to Hatfield House, and that's where Queen Victoria was brought up as a young girl, and they have somebody that looks like the Queen come in while you're eating, and you all stand up when the Queen comes in, big long tables. Oh, there's so many fun things to do in London.
Yes. Yeah, that certainly sounds like a lot of fun, Doris, and these tourist things and these eating places there's so much going on in this great city.
And of course, you have to have fish and chips when you're in London.
Well, fish and chips is a British classic as well.
Yes, right. It's pretty good, too.
And chips with curry sauce on them
chips
as well.
Are potato
that was
chips.
Pretty.
Right.
Chips are French fries, right?
That's a new design, right? But, the mysteries and spies now that we're talking about are discovering places. We said mysteries because of Sherlock Holmes was the great one that Arthur Conan Doyle wrote about, the stories that he did. But the other things that we can find out are some of the cultural things like the plays, and I love the dramas and plays. London has been known for having some of the best plays in the world, don't you think?
Right. They usually are granted the award of being #1 English stage play city in the world.
Right.
Is London, England. And when we move on to pay our next reading, we'll be able to tell you more about what you can actually see and enjoy
Right.
in London.
Well, now you can see good plays and things in Russia and in Paris, but you can't understand them. But when you're in London, it's in English. So
Exactly.
be sure and take a trip over there, right? So let's take page 31 today, and we're going to find out about a play that is very famous, and it's called
The
The
Mouse,
Mouse
Trap.
Trap. Let's read about it.
The Mousetrap. Anytime you want to say longest running play, the one to measure against is the whodunit, The Mousetrap, at London's St. Martin's Theatre. In its 64th year, the Agatha Christie mystery debuted with a young Richard Attenborough in the 1952 cast. It's dated, certainly, but you can't help but feel that you are a part of history when you see it. After the final applause, even after all these years, a cast member steps forward to ask patrons not to reveal the perpetrator of the crime.
The Mousetrap. It originated in London, but it's played all over the world. I even saw it performed in Taipei once by the Taipei Drama Club.
Oh, very good.
So, everybody likes that play. And you saw it, right?
Yes, I did. The first time I saw it was not in London. The first time I saw it was at the Toronto Truck Theatre in Toronto, Canada. And then 3 years ago, my sister treated my husband and I to see The Mousetrap in London at St. Martin's Theatre.
Oh, my
So
goodness.
it was a big deal for us and a lot of fun. Theatre is beautiful inside. It's not really much to look at out the outside because it almost looks like it's
very
just
plain.
fit in,
Right.
almost like a storefront. But inside, it's beautiful to see, and the acting was wonderful. And I would highly recommend going to it.
Well, it says, it's the longest running play. It goes on, and they called it here, it's the one to measure against is the whodunit, the mousetrap. The whodunit. What is a whodunit?
Yeah, whodunit is it's a genre or type of play or book or story that you might read or watch. And it's just a mystery story where you're trying to guess who's done the crime.
Right.
So that's what we mean by whodunit. It's who has
It's kind
done
of
the
like
crime.
3 words. Who, we would say, who did it?
Yeah.
In proper grammar, right?
Exactly.
Who did it? But the term whodunit,
Yeah.
that became a coined word for a mystery. Who actually did this crime?
Now, I have been told, maybe Gordon, you know, that this play can actually end with a different murderer. Is that true?
I wasn't aware of that.
I don't think so.
We read here about how the audience finds out who did it at
Yes.
the end. But yeah, that doesn't surprise me. It's been running a long time.
Yes.
I'm sure people have done it with a different murderer.
Yes.
haven't
I
heard
think
that.
they have.
But tell us the plot. The thing is that there's a whole lot of people that are guests someplace, and there's a murderer.
There's
And you
murder.
don't know which one of them
Right.
is the murderer.
And I think they're at a resort or a hotel or something like that. And you're right. It's who's coming in, who's going out. I love that about Agatha Christie mysteries. It's like,
Yes.
who's here now? Who's not here now?
Agatha Christie's great
And I was
writer.
like, okay, did we see that person yet or haven't we seen? So you get kind of mixed up.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they say who done it, because do you have your characters, like, do you remember who they are? And
But they make it sound like anybody could have been the one.
Right.
You're suspicious of this person and this person.
Exactly.
But when you get through, you're not supposed to say who did it.
That's right. You're
Did you
supposed
want
to
to
keep
tell
it
us?
quiet. No, I'm not going to tell anyone
You're not
because I
supposed to.
want people to go to St. Martin's Theatre
You're
in
not
London.
going to say who did it.
No.
Okay. So this cast, they come forward and they say, don't tell anybody who the perpetrator. The perpetrator is the person who caused it, who did it, right?
Yeah, the person who's guilty of the crime.
Yes. Who is the one? You're not going to tell us?
No, because you know what? I think everybody, when they first go to see it, will go, well, all those people are above doing that kind of crime. How could any one of them be a murderer? So
Can you
you're going
tell
to
us
have
what the
to
crime
find
was?
out.
It's a murder,
It's
right?
a murder mystery, yes.
It's a murder mystery. And Agatha Christie's mysteries are always interesting. Have you read hers?
Yes, I have read some of Agatha Christie. She's very famous again. Yesterday we talked about Sir Arthur Conan Doyle.
Yes.
Agatha Christie's from a bit later. She was born in 1890 and died in 1976. So
Right.
first half of the 20th century.
She lived a long
She
life.
She did, yeah. So that means she lived to 86.
And
Yeah.
that's to
In
be
those
born
days,
to be
yes.
born in the 19th century
I know.
and live that long into the 20th century, quite
Right.
something.
Yeah.
And a lot of people read if you like mysteries.
Yes.
And I know one of the American presidents, Ronald Reagan, he loved mysteries, and he read all of Sir Conan Doyle and Agatha Christie's, and they're very interesting books.
Right, and I believe if you go on YouTube, you can find some of her like the movies that were made from Agatha Christie books.
Oh,
That
wow,
would be
yeah.
fun. Yeah.
A lot of her stories have been turned into movies, and there's even been films about the woman herself, about Agatha Christie.
Right. So if you don't know about her, look it up
Yeah.
and follow through and know more to be knowledgeable about these people that have made a big imprint in the world.
Exactly. And I can guarantee you that your city or town library will have Agatha Christie
yes.
books.
Yes, I should say.
Yeah, definitely, and it's a great way to learn English because they're often short stories and you can try and work out and guess who is the perpetrator in each book, and
Right.
yeah, there should be a fun way to practice your English.
I think mysteries are a good way to learn things because you find out so many things by reading the books about the culture and about the background, and you're learning English, but you have a story, and not just a story, but you have to try to figure out what happened. So it's
Right.
good for you.
It's probably why I really appreciate the BBC entertainment show Father Brown, because I'm always trying to figure out who he's going to figure out who did the murder. It's quite good, and it's a real mystery.
Oh, there's so many mysteries. Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? That's a good mystery. And you could do it on your computer, and you can try to find out by what kind of money or what if they were eating Japanese food. Oh, they're in Japan. Those are fun, and you can learn by mysteries.
Yeah, you learn because you're trying to work out what's going on with the story and who the characters are, and that really should stretch your English.
That's true. So The Mousetrap is something you should see.
Definitely. And I think you will enjoy the period it's set in, and I think you will also enjoy the costumes.
Yes, it's a very good one. But there are so many things, even some American plays, and like Singing in the Rain, and some of those, I saw those when I was in London. And you can see so many kinds of things there. Have you been to plays in London too?
I have, yeah. When I lived in London, I remember the summer of 2011, I went to see The Lion King.
Oh, yeah, I
show
saw that there,
which
too.
is a very famous big show with
Yeah.
lots of music and costumes
Right.
and amazing.
That was great, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a theatre production of Disney's The Lion King film.
Right.
And yeah, I really enjoyed that. I saw that in the West End, which is the very famous part of London where all the
Right.
theatres are.
Is that by Covent Gardens?
Yeah, it's very close to Covent Garden. The West End is between the Strand and Covent Garden, and there's a whole host of theatres in that section.
Theaters and bookstores and everything down there.
Yeah, and shops. There's markets. It's
Places
really the
to
centre
eat.
of
Oh,
London.
it's
And a
fun.
big square. I call it a big square, like that you can not feel crowded. That everybody's out and about, but you don't feel
Doing a
crowded
lot of different
there.
things. So many little shops that you can go in and look at things, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. There is something for everyone, and especially in that particular part of London.
Right, that's a good part of London for tourists to go. And it always has tourists all during the year.
It's a good restaurant there, too.
Lots of them, right?
Sophie's.
But, when we think of mysteries, we often think of the one that's been made into famous movies as the 007 movies. So let's read about Bond in Motion.
Bond in Motion. Walking back to my tube stop, I accidentally bumped into the London Film Museum, which is featuring Bond in Motion. What had been a traveling exhibition featuring James Bond vehicles from the film series is staying put in 007's home base. The exhibition includes the car most associated with Agent 007, the Aston Martin DB5, plus Goldfinger's Rolls-Royce Phantom 3 and the Lotus Esprit S1 submersible from The Spy Who Loved Me. The fictional spy's means of transport, mostly on loan from the archive of Eon Productions, are shown in context with video and photo displays. On the well-lit upper mezzanine are a few never-before-seen examples of concept art and storyboards that show a car chase scene. Exhibits, including vehicles from Spectre, have arrived, and the museum celebrated the 50th anniversary of Thunderball, which was released in December 1965, by having the original Bell rocket-built jetpack brought in from the U.S. I admit I found myself watching the videos rather than examining the hardware, but I imagine it's a thrill for Bond and car enthusiasts be so close to real-deal wheels and such from the movies.
Well, talking about mysteries and spies, how can we forget about James Bond?
Right. We can't forget about 007 when we think of England, when we think of London. And I especially can't forget about his car. I like the car.
Oh, I know what the cars they have. Well, you know what I like about the James Bond movies? They have a lot of things that don't seem like could ever happen, but there's real people. And so many now mysteries today, there's all kinds of creatures that look like animals or something. But I like real people in movies. If you want to have a mystery story, let's have the people. And they had very interesting people. They had, who's this man that we see in the picture here? He's with the new James Bond right now.
Yeah, this is Daniel Craig, who is
Right.
who is the current James Bond, but there have been many actors who have played James
Right.
Bond, and people often have their favorites. I really like Sean Connery.
Oh, Sean Connery was good.
Yeah.
Roger Moore, all these different
Yeah,
ones.
Roger Moore. I really like Pierce Brosnan.
And
I
Pierce
really
Brosnan.
liked him. But I really like Sean Connery, too.
Yeah, I think he's my favorite one, yeah.
And, you know, Daniel Craig's good. This picture showing him possibly with a lot darker hair than he has in real life. I think that was part of it. People kept, when he was first introduced, well, he doesn't have jet black hair. And for some reason, I think a lot of people have associated James Bond, the character, with jet black hair.
Really? Well, I don't know. But, you know, it's hard to take over from somebody that's a favorite, actually. But the James Bond stories are very good. And if you go back, it says, walking back in my tube stop. Now, tube stop means the MRT or the,
Subway,
subway.
right?
The subway. They call it the tube. Bumped into the London Film Museum. And that is also, for anybody that's into movies and films, they should go to the Film Museum, don't you think?
Yeah, the Film Museum it's in the same area. It's very close to the Strand and Covent Garden.
Yes.
So it's right in the centre there. The closest tube stations are Covent Garden and Temple.
Right. Covent Garden is the one I remember getting off and all these different things going on, yeah. That's a good stop, but tube stop.
Yeah, and the London Film Museum is right there, and at the moment there is this exhibition, Bond in Motion, which is there.
A traveling exhibition featuring the vehicles and the cars, and that's what you like.
Yeah, I like the vehicles. I like the cars that they always had in the 007 films. And they were always, I don't know, they captivated me.
Well, yeah, you'd like to have something would happen, come out the back, or it would go up in the air, jump over the other cars.
I'd like one of those snazzy little cars.
Yeah, these are always top-of-the-range cars, so the best cars out there, fast and shiny and very attractive cars, but there's exciting gadgets and gizmos that they put in the cars.
And it was always advertisement to me for the British car industry.
Yeah, that's
because they had
Yeah, but cars don't do that. You can't buy those in Britain.
because they had the Aston Martins and they had
Yeah,
the Rolls Royce.
Yeah.
So they were promoting their own
Well,
cars
that's
too.
true. But I don't know how they ever made those cars even do that for the movies. Actually,
Well, maybe there was a lot of effects and stunts.
I think there's some stunts involved in that too. But they have an exhibition that you can see these cars. Now, did you do that, Lois? You should do that next trip.
I should do that next trip. When you say about an exhibition of cars, and we were talking about this city a little while ago, 3 years ago in the summer, I went and saw a car exhibition in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah?
And absolutely loved it. And they actually had one of the the Aston Martin cars they used in a James Bond movie.
Oh, wow.
So
you've got to do this.
So I
next year.
kind of got to do that a little bit.
So if you
sounds
like
fun.
cars, you should do that. But the 007, 0007 movies are very famous all over the world, and they've been put in many different languages. And then they talk about Goldfinger's Rolls-Royce Phantom. So the Aston Martin is a British car. The Rolls-Royce is. Who's Goldfinger?
Goldfinger was a film.
Yeah, Goldfinger's one of the bad guys in one of the films.
That's right. Rolls-Royce Phantom 3. And the Lotus, which was S1, was submersible. What does that mean?
Well, under the water, it would go.
Yeah.
And a type of ship that can travel underwater. In this case, it was a car, especially one that operates without people being in it.
Well, when you think about all these things, we've seen them in the movies, I often wonder about the people that write these things, how they can get a new idea that's different, because there's so many different things going on. That's why we have all these robots now. They ran out of people. Right?
And of course, James Bond has been going on for over 50 years now.
Is that right? Oh,
yeah,
my
so the
goodness.
films have been around a long time, and they're remaking some of the old stories, and they just try and keep it exciting with maybe even newer cars and newer gadgets.
Right. Well, every time a new James Bond movie comes out, I try to go to see it. Don't you?
Right. And also, the original books, all of them were written by Ian Fleming, if I'm correct
Yeah,
here.
that's correct.
So there's another series of books you can read are about James Bond 007 and the books written by Ian Fleming.
Yeah, Ian Fleming was a very great mystery writer, right?
Well, he, kind of like a adventure spy, kind of
spy
writer.
type, right?
Yeah.
Right. So the fictional spy's name of transport, mostly on loan from the archive of this production that makes the movies. They get that. Those are shown. You can see those in the context with the video and the photo displays. They don't just show the car, that they have little videos that show the car in action, what it did, which makes it much more meaningful, doesn't it?
Yeah, you can see which cars were in which films and what roles they played in the stories.
That's right. And then on the well-lit upper mezzanine, which is just like the balcony part, there's a few never-before-seen examples of concept art and storyboards that show a car chase scene. Now, that would be interesting.
Yeah, and I like that they said that they were using storyboards. Some people might not know what that is. It's in film and television, a series of drawings or images showing the order of images planned for a film.
Right, you have to put that down first before you pick the film.
Right, and
you have to have the storyboard, which is pictures of what you're going to film.
I've seen a few storyboards in my travels or museums we've been to or art galleries or whatever, and it really shows you how they get the concept, and then they're going to carry on from that. But storyboards have a really old history. And one of the places I recently visited was the Republic of Palau. Now, they do storyboards, and you will hear about storyboards from history, but they are totally done on wood and carved.
Oh, my goodness.
So I was in a church that did a storyboard on the life of Christ on a cross.
Oh, my goodness.
So the cross was huge, but it was all made the shape of a cross, Christian cross, but it had done all in storyboards.
But that would take a long time to do that.
Exactly.
I mean, you don't just sit down and draw it,
So that's originally how they did storyboards.
But storyboards mainly now just are the way the drawings that you have of how you're going to film it,
Yeah, in this context, that sounds amazing, Lois, about that big cross, that huge piece of carving art. But nowadays, the storyboards are they're used before you film a film.
Right, you've got to have a storyboard first. You can't film without it.
So everyone knows what the story's going to be, and they're often fascinating to fans of movies because maybe what was in the storyboard is a little different from what ended up being in the film. They originally thought they were going to go one direction, and then the film ended up being slightly different. And so that can be fascinating for real fans.
It tells here in line 15 of the second column about these different exhibits, and they have all kinds of vehicles from these different movies, the Spectre, and they've arrived, and they have the anniversary of the Thunderball, which was one of their first movies, wasn't it? Thunderball?
Yeah, 1965.
Oh, my goodness. That was released then. And they have the original Bell Rocket Bell jetpack brought in from you. That's what I like. And they put this on and they can jump and go up in the sky. Wouldn't you like one of those sometimes?
I'll go in an airplane.
That sounds
Yeah,
safer.
but you know, when you're in a rush and there's all this traffic and you just get that on, you go above the traffic. I know it'd be kind of fun, you know. But that was always exciting how they did that in the film.
Yes, and that's back in 1965, and I'm sure nowadays people have played around with trying to make jetpacks, but just, just having that idea in this 1960s
That was a long
is
time
great.
ago.
Yeah, that's right.
So in the last paragraph, he says, well, I admit I found myself watching the videos rather than looking at the cars, the hardware. They wanted to see the videos because that showed those things in action. And that's a good idea for a museum, instead of just having the object sitting there to show that it's being used.
Yeah, I think that's great, especially for such an interactive exhibit as this, where we all know the Bond films and we get to see the hardware and also see how they're used in the film.
Lois, I think you and your husband would both like this thrill of the car to see this close-up of the wheels from the moon. Wouldn't that be fun?
I think so. I think we need to do this, and I actually need to tell him when he goes away on his flights and he has a day or two off in London I think I better keep this article.
I think you should. And in fact, everybody should keep it, because when you travel, you got to check it out and see if you saw the places. So keep your articles. And thanks for being with us every day. We have interesting stories, and we've had interesting people and discussions in this one. Thank you for coming, Lois and Gordon.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah,
And
I'm very
thanks
glad
all
to
of
be
you
here.
for listening in. It's been fun. And plan your trip to London now in your holidays.
Don't have to tell me a second time.
Can't wait.
Okay. See you for a new subject tomorrow. Have a great day today, and get your jet belt on and get out there. Okay. See you next time. Goodbye.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.